Oh, we're still keeping a close eye on the construction mafia, a big focus of ours here on eNCA a couple of weeks ago. So how do we try as a country to combat this so-called construction mafia at a national level? A national priority is what it needs to be, according to the Democratic Alliance, calling for a lot more action to be taken because of the disruptive extortion activities posing a major threat to the industry and the economy. Well, let's say good morning to the DA National Spokesperson. It's Sello Seitlholo making time for us this morning. Sello, hello to you, and I appreciate your time. How do we go about that as a country in our legal framework to make this a national priority? What does that process look like?
Well, good morning, Gareth, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. As I indicated in the media statement that I had released, that I had written to the Lieutenant General Libya, who is the head of the Directorate for Priority Crimes, that is the Hawks, and he has the powers within Section 17D of the South African Police Services Act to actually declare this particular crime as a priority crime. Now, it's very simple to look at how it's important for us to be able to go about this process because it's outlined in the specific act. And look, the economic damage that was further, emphasized by the minister last night on the JJ Tabane show of almost 70 billion rands that is lost due to this particular construction mafia and their extortionist tendencies or activities rather. And this is something that is incredibly important because any crime that rids the economy of that much money in terms of investment, in terms of access to projects that are supposed to service communities across the country should then be declared a priority crime as per the particular letter that I wrote to the Lieutenant General Libya, indicating and citing that particular section of the specific act.
Yeah, what does that empower, though? Are we going to start seeing the army moving in? Because every time there seems to be an issue with anything regarding national security, national priorities, national policy, and SAPS can't handle it, we seem to call the SANDF into it. I don't know if that's what happens here, but help me understand the mechanics of what changes if this was made a national priority crime.
Well, look, the Act in terms of Section 17D1A of the Act, it provides that the Hawks should act to prevent, combat and investigate national priority offences, which in the opinion of the head of the Directorate needs to be addressed by the Directorate. The Act defines a national priority crime as an organised crime that requires national prevention and investigation, or crimes that require specialised skills in the prevention of investigation thereof. And I believe that the construction mafia and their activities fall squarely within this particular category. Now, of course, the minister has indicated that a national forum comprising of the security cluster had been set up in order to be able to investigate these construction mafias and their related extortion activities. I then later responded to that particular communication by saying that that particular forum excludes a number of stakeholders because this requires a whole of society approach that will then be able to deal with this particular issue. But look, in terms of how that will then go about, of course, there needs to then be clarification from the Directorate for Priority Crimes as to how then that unfolds. Should the army be brought in? Should private security be brought in? But remember, the Western Cape and the city of Cape Town have spent millions in terms of their own budgets trying to get private security to come and man these particular projects that are being threatened by the construction mafia. However, we cannot allow municipalities and provinces to be spending millions of rands of unbudgeted funds on security when we could be redirecting resources such as the VIP protection of politicians towards the SAPS, towards whether it's SANDF or whether it's private security. But whatever the case may be, Gareth, at the end of the day, the reality is that there are projects that are being stalled worth of billions of rands already lost to the economy that ought to be dealt with and nipped in the bud. However,
and that's not even to talk about the number of jobs that are being lost as well through this intimidation and this extortion. Sello, I need to say goodbye to you in a moment. Before I do that, what worries me is that it seems to get all this done, you have to have another opposition party insisting that a national priority is made. I would have imagined that the government would have dealt with this without having to be told by a national opposition party.
Well, it's unacceptable, Gareth, and that's why I said that the attempt by the MEC of KZN, Sipho to actually meet with or attempt to meet with these particular construction mafias speaks volumes about the character of the ANC in terms of them being a criminal syndicate themselves, perhaps. That is why they know who these particular criminal syndicates are. And it is unacceptable that we can find ourselves in a position where jobs have been threatened, the economy has been threatened, and yet the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Sello Seitlholo, keeps on blowing hot air and giving us half-baked details about this particular national forum. And, even on JJ Tabane's show yesterday, him talking about the 600 people that have been arrested over the past 2 years, but couldn't really tell us how many of them have been convicted and are in red overalls at this point. That is why I had submitted a prior application to the SAPS to actually inquire about the exact number of people that have been arrested regarding this particular construction mafia and the extortionist tendencies that they have, activities that they have, as well as how many of them have received bail and how many of them have actually then been lawfully arrested and found guilty by the court of law.
And many people will say, Sello, that it's not enough of them being arrested as well. Never mind the conviction rate. You make a good point. Convictions and arrests are two very different things. On the construction mafia this morning for us, DA National Spokesperson Sello Seitlholo, I appreciate your time in joining us this morning.